What's going on, everyone? I'm just a typical, average American here today to react and learn about why people love Norwegian healthcare. As an American, I have a lot of complaints about our healthcare system here, and so I thought it would be actually interesting to hear about people's experiences using the Norwegian healthcare system and how that compares to the healthcare here in America. I think the biggest difference is that in Norway, healthcare is funded by taxes. It's paid for with taxes and it's run by the government. And so everyone can go get healthcare whenever they need it, and Norwegians don't really have to worry so much about how much it's going to cost them when they go get healthcare, whereas here in the United States, every time you go to get healthcare, every time you go to get help, every time you go to the hospital or emergency room, you have to worry how much it's going to cost you. We also have to pay every month for health insurance. You have to figure out where to get your health insurance from, and still you're going to pay out of pocket some amount of money every time you get help. And if you need some kind of procedure that isn't covered by your insurance, then you got to pay the full amount, and it's absolutely crazy. It's run like a business here, and I know it's a lot different in Norway. And so I want to learn about that. I want to learn about what it's like in Norway. Healthcare, hospitals, and that whole experience. So this is a man who actually moved to Norway and got to experience the healthcare system in Norway. And I'm really interested in learning about his story. So let's take a look.
Here's the story about when I first went to the hospital here in Norway.
Right.
Now, before I moved to Norway, I had arthritis in my ankle for years and years and years. And so the American doctors recommended everything from surgery down to monthly injections that will help reduce the swelling in my ankle. And of course, I worked with all the low-key options so that I didn't go immediately into surgery, because a lot of times you never know the outcome of surgery. And in all honesty, I didn't even know how much of the surgery my health insurance would have covered at the time.
Exactly. See, as Americans, as an American, he's already talking about the health insurance. It's sad because your health insurance coverage actually is a big factor in how you decide what kind of treatment you're gonna get, what kind of help you're gonna get. It's really quite sad, especially when I learn about other systems like the Norwegian healthcare system, where it's just focused on getting you better. What treatment do you need? Don't worry about the cost. What help do you need? That would be a really, really wonderful feeling to have that. So I'm really quite envious of Norway for that reason, and he's kind of talking about that as well.
And so when I moved to Norway, the arthritis continued to bother me. Every day I was in pain, so I would wake up in the morning, and sometimes it was just a mild, irritating pain, and then some days it was the kind of pain that you didn't even want to get out of bed. But I lived with it years and years and years.
Wow.
And a lot of times I felt irritable because of it.
Wow. So he moved to Norway. I don't know if you have to be a Norwegian citizen to take part in Norway's full healthcare benefits, or if you can go to Norwegian hospitals as a visitor, or as a not like a new resident, as a foreigner who's living in Norway. But I'm guessing he went and got care, so I wonder what that was like.
Other times it caused me to feel angry and upset at myself for not being able to do the things that I wanted to do, and for limiting my ability to have fun and even to just do the basic things like stand and lecture for a couple of hours. So after a few meetings with my general practitioner, she finally recommended that I get a consult to see if surgery is an option for me. So a few weeks later, I went to the hospital to meet with a surgeon. They did a few scans, and eventually they got back to me and said, yes, surgery is a possibility if this is something you want to do. And having had arthritis.
So this is in Norway. He's in Norway, and the surgeon is recommending that he get surgery.
Arthritis in my ankle for going on 10 years, I finally decided that this was enough. And even though there was a risk in getting surgery, I really wanted to see if there was a possibility that I could live the rest of my life in a way that isn't as limited as it was. So with a little bit of fear, but a lot of hope, yes, let's do this surgery. So I went back for another consult. They walked me through everything from going into the hospital to recovery afterwards. So ahead of time, I went to the rehabilitation clinic and I got a set of crutches.
I mean, it sounds, so far, like the experience sounds quite good. Just the healthcare, like, treatments, doctors giving him advice, creating a schedule for him, recommending surgery and treatment and what he'll do. That's pretty similar in the United States. If there's one good thing about the United States healthcare, it's that the actual healthcare, the actual treatment is good. Our doctors are good. The health service is good. It's just a matter of, can you pay for it? Can you figure out how to pay for it? And can you afford the correct insurance? And does it cover what you need? And that's what it is. So Norway sounds like it has fantastic healthcare, like, service and treatment, which is similar to America.
And I got a wheelchair because I didn't really know exactly what I would be needing. And it was more or less just like checking out a library book. You went in, you told them what you needed, and they gave you what you needed. So right off the bat, it was a little bit of an unfamiliar process for me because I wasn't paying for anything that they were giving me. It was just, hey, I need a wheelchair. Here's the order from my doctor. And then, ta-da, here's your wheelchair. So the
Wait, what? What is this? So he's just going into the hospital and getting crutches, getting a wheelchair, getting all the supplies he needs, and no one is talking about payment. No one's talking about, like, a bill, or is that what it's like? Is that what it's like in Norway? That's like a strange feeling as an American, honestly. I would be, like, so worried. I'd be like, okay, how much is this going to cost? Like, you actually find yourself asking that question sometimes, because you never know.
The night before I get ready for the surgery, go through all the prep work that they have, tried to get enough sleep, and in the morning went in at my scheduled time. They admitted me, and so I'm sitting on the gurney just kind of kicking my legs with my hospital gown on, feeling really nervous and a little bit excited just to see where things are going to go. I met with the doctor, he explained again what the process is, and explained a little bit about the recovery. And I go into the prep area and they start wrapping my ankle, and they administered the anesthesia, and of course I was out. I remember blearily waking up and a nurse administering some pain medication and then falling in and out of consciousness for a few hours until I was taken to the room that I would be in for the next few days.
Okay.
Now I was laid up.
So far, this sounds like a very typical, like, surgery hospital experience.
Up in the hospital for a few days, and the whole thing is very frustrating. Recovering from surgery is never a pleasant experience.
Right.
But after several days in the hospital, I was feeling strong enough to go ahead and go home. I remember walking out of the hospital and going to the reception desk and asking them, okay, is there anything else I need to do?
Right.
Because I assumed there was at least a copay of some sort that I'd have to dole out for having 3 days in hospital and having surgery.
Right.
And she said, no, have a great day. That's all you need. That's all we need. So I got in a taxi.
What? How does... It's amazing. It's really amazing. Like, hearing these stories of what it's like in Norway and other countries, the healthcare situation. I don't know what is going on here in the United States, and it really depends on your financial situation. There's a lot of people who, like, if you are not in a good financial situation, you might not even take an ambulance. Like, I know people who are like, if they need to get to the hospital, you don't call the ambulance, because that's like $1,000 or $2,000 right there. You'll just drive yourself. You'll figure out a way. Like, the fact that is a thought is crazy. Crazy. And here, like, he's having surgery. He's spending 3 days in a hospital, which I would be very, very worried about spending that long in a hospital, because every day is so expensive, and your insurance only pays a percentage of the cost. You either have a copay, like a lump sum that you need to pay down, or you have to pay a small percentage. Your insurance doesn't cover everything, even though you're paying for health insurance every month. But I can't even imagine how stress-free you would feel as a Norwegian. You would feel good about paying your taxes. You would feel good if you knew it was going to your healthcare coverage. I don't know why we don't do that here. Well, I do know. It's because here, there's a lot of people who make a lot of money off of our healthcare insurance, and healthcare and hospitals make a lot of money. That's why it doesn't seem to change. There's a lot of people making a lot of money, it feels like.
And I went back home and I spent the next several weeks recovering and even took a trip to Mozambique to teach a course on universal design, but that's a different story. And I was left with a feeling of comfort that the only thing I needed to worry about after having spent the time in the hospital was recovering from that surgery.
Right.
And I think this was one of my...
That's a great point. Great point. In America, you know, it's healthcare. You are really stressed, you're worried. The only thing you should be focusing on is getting better. But in America, you also have to focus on, can I afford this? Am I going to be able to afford rent next month because of this healthcare bill? I'm going to have to set up a payment plan. Oh, yeah. I mean, hearing about these stories really makes me think about it. It really makes me think.
Favorite stories of living in Norway, because a lot of times I struggle to describe what it means to me to be part of this community. Because it's hard to put your finger on something and say, this is what I love about living here. Mm-hmm. But when I got to leave that hospital without a care in the world, other than my own health, welfare, and recovery, I did so with a feeling of love.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Oh my gosh. That's amazing. It's just like boggles my mind that is the way it should be. When I hear it like that, I just feel like here in America, we have accepted our healthcare situation, where we're like, well, that's the way it is here, whatever. And then I hear stories about this, what it's like in Norway and stuff, and it really opens my eyes. I have one more video by the same person here, where he also visited the emergency room in Norway. A lot of Americans don't visit the emergency room in America because it's literally, when you think emergency room, you think that's going to cost a lot of money. Do I have to go? Do I absolutely have to go? And I'm guessing in Norway, people go to the emergency room whenever they need, stress-free. Well, you're in an emergency, so it's not stress-free, but not worrying about the payment. That's all it is. Just, that makes a lot of difference. A lot of difference.
But I do have a lot of experience going to the emergency room here in Norway. I've been to the ER here in Norway a total of 3 times. The first time I thought I had a stress fracture in my foot. Turns out I was just tying my shoes too tight. The second time I slammed my finger in the door. They took an x-ray, nothing was broken, so they gave me some paracetamol and sent me home. And the third time I was there accompanying a colleague. All 3 times we were admitted in fairly short order. Now I believe, like all emergency rooms, they admit people according to the severity of their injuries. So of course me with my stress fracture and my finger that wasn't actually broken but just pinched in the doorway wasn't necessarily the most serious case at the ER.
Yeah, okay, so in Norway, let me say, in America, a lot of people worry that if you have, like, universal healthcare coverage, everyone's covered, that people will just go to the doctor and flock to the emergency room for every little thing, and that there will be way too many people and the wait times will be way too long. According to him, that doesn't seem to be the case. Here in America, one of the nice things is, for the most part, there are not very long wait times. You can get treatment pretty quickly. And that's because Americans don't want to go to the doctor. In Norway, it seems like you're covered, but at least in his experience, he was seen quickly, which is comforting to hear.
So I certainly wasn't the first one that was admitted, but I also didn't have to wait for hours.
Okay.
In most cases, they brought me to a waiting room. Within an hour, I would see a doctor. Then they would shuffle me off to get an x-ray, where I waited maybe another hour. And when the doctor tried very hard not to roll their eyes at me, they sent me along my way. And in total, I had lost maybe 2 or 3 hours out of my day.
That sounds like literally the same experience you would get in the United States. A couple hours of waiting, depending on where you are, I guess. If you're in a big city, it might take more time because there's more people. But yeah, so Norway is literally just straight up better healthcare system. Like, you're seen quickly, the treatment is amazing, the treatment is fantastic, and you pay taxes, and then you don't worry about your healthcare costs. You just go.
Now, I acknowledge that the Norwegian healthcare system is not perfect. It is
Okay.
by no stretch of the imagination a fail-proof system.
Okay.
There are definitely gaps in care. There are definitely issues in terms of innovation and resource constraints that affect the daily lives of me and other people throughout the country.
Okay, okay. See, I like to hear about this as well. If there are criticisms, if there are drawbacks. Now, I feel like whatever drawbacks there are in the Norwegian system, they're probably a lot better than what's going on in the American system. That's for sure. So maybe there is a more constraint on the resources because there's probably a lot of people asking for care because people feel like they can ask for care, which is fantastic. It's much better than in America being scared to go get help, like because you're scared of going bankrupt or something.
But seeing the Norwegian healthcare system up against my experience of the American healthcare system, I gotta say it's like night and day.
Yeah.
Unless things radically change on one side or the
Yeah.
other, I'll continue to be very, very happy and grateful to live in a country where I can go to the emergency room the next time that I imagine I broke a bone and walk out having gotten the care I needed and not being sent a bill after the fact and not jeopardizing my financial security at the end of it. I never
Exactly. Exactly. Very well put. So he has experienced both systems, American and Norwegian. And he's like, no question, Norwegian healthcare system is way better. That's what I, like, just from listening and learning, that's what I kind of expect. That's what I think as well. Man. Man, oh man, oh man.
ever have to ask myself whether I should go to the doctor. If I'm concerned about my health, I just go. And I'm grateful to live in a country where my taxes pay for that kind of care.
Exactly. Oh my gosh, that's another thing. In America, we don't even know where our taxes are going half the time. If I knew my taxes were going to healthcare, I would be so happy. I would be so happy to pay taxes. Oh man. That's crazy. This has just got me thinking about American healthcare and why is it the way it is? Why no one ever really talks about it here? No one ever seems to try to change it. It doesn't really come up like in politics, like, oh, we should change the healthcare system. Americans have just accepted it. And it's really the poorest Americans in financially struggling. Those are the ones that get affected the most. There's some American like healthcare social services to help them, but if you're middle or lower class financially, you're really scared of going to get healthcare. It's really quite crazy, and God forbid you need like a surgery or something expensive, and then you could pay thousands or tens of thousands of dollars in certain situations, and it's crazy. It's crazy. So I really enjoyed learning about this. It also it also made me just like realize what the heck are we doing here in America. So that kind of stressed me out a little. But learning about this is always very fun, very eye-opening. This was by Dr. Anthony Gianumis, and I liked this video. I appreciated him talking about his experience. That was pretty eye-opening to me, pretty helpful. And yeah, I enjoyed learning about Norwegian healthcare here quite a bit. Actual experiences. Very interesting. So anyway, if you enjoyed this as well, feel free to give this video a like or leave a comment, perhaps with your Norwegian healthcare experience or your thoughts on Norwegian healthcare, whether you love it or are there things you criticize about it. That'd be amazing to hear about. And if you're interested in more videos like this, me reacting to Norway and Norwegian culture, feel free to subscribe for more. And until then, thanks for watching, and see you next time.